Before Normandy crowned kings, it raised warlords. From the cold shores of Scandinavia to the throne of England, one bloodline carved its name into history. With sword, fire, and ambition. This is the story of the Dukes of Normandy. Our story begins not with a Frenchman, but with a Viking. Around the late 9th century, Norse raiders repeatedly attacked the northern coast of what is now France. Among them was a fearsome warlord named Rollo, or as he was sometimes known, Rolf the Ganger, the Walker, because he was so large no horse could carry him. In 911, after years of pillaging and sieges, the King of West Francia, Charles the Simple, made a desperate move. He offered Rollo land in exchange for peace. The result was the Treaty of Saint-Clair-sur-Epte. Rollo would convert to Christianity, marry the king's daughter, and receive the land that would become Normandy, the land of the Northmen. It was a political masterstroke for both sides. Rollo now had legitimacy. France had temporarily peace. But Rollo was no passive landholder. He governed with a brutal efficiency, mixing Viking customs with Frankish law. He distributed land to his warriors, set up defenses, and laid the foundation of what would become a powerful duchy. Rollo's son, William Longsword, inherited more than land. He inherited ambition. Unlike his father, William leaned into the Frankish identity. He expanded Normandy's influence through diplomacy and conquest, extending his power into the Cotentin and Bessin regions. But not all nobles approved. In 942, William was assassinated by men he considered allies. Normandy, still fragile, was left in the hands of a child, his son Richard. Richard I was just 10 years old when his father died. He was taken into custody by the King of France, supposedly for protection, but effectively held hostage. Nobles moved against Normandy, sensing weakness, but the boy escaped, and when he returned, he brought fire with him. Richard rebuilt what his father had started. He forged alliances, including with Viking settlers, giving them land in exchange for loyalty. He established a stable court, invited trade, and invested in the defense of his borders. He also married into powerful Frankish families, legitimizing his rule in the eyes of his peers. By the end of his reign, Normandy was no longer a Viking outpost. It was a duchy, proud, rich, and feared. Richard II inherited a stable realm, and he ruled it with a diplomatic hand. He maintained peace with the church, supported monasteries, and further aligned Normandy with the Capetian kings of France. But beneath the calm, tensions simmered. He had to fend off rebellion from his own brother and deal with raids from rival nobles. He also began a tradition that would echo through the ages, intermarriage with England's royal house. His sister Emma married King Ethelred of England, a seemingly minor union that would later give the Normans a claim to the English crown. When Richard II died, the duchy passed briefly to his son Richard III, but within a year, Richard III was dead. Poisoned, it was rumored, and the title passed to his younger brother, Robert I. Robert was bold and restless. He suppressed rebellions, attacked the French king's lands, and styled himself not just as a duke, but as a true sovereign. But his most lasting act wasn't on the battlefield. It was in the bedroom. Robert fathered a child with Herleva, the daughter of a tanner. The child was illegitimate, but when Robert left on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem in 1035, he named the boy his heir. The boy's name was William. Robert never returned. He died on the road, and Normandy was left in the hands of a bastard child. William's early life was defined by assassination attempts, betrayals, and civil war. He was just 7 or 8 when he became duke. Many Norman nobles viewed him as an unworthy ruler. Illegitimacy was a stain that could not be washed away. But William had loyal protectors and a steel will. By his teenage years, he had survived multiple attempts on his life. By his 20s, he had crushed his rivals. He reformed the Norman army, implemented strict control over his vassals, and centralized power in a way no previous duke had done. Then came 1066. King Edward the Confessor of England died childless. William claimed Edward had promised him the throne, and that Harold Godwinson, who took it, was a usurper. William gathered his forces and invaded England. At the Battle of Hastings, he defeated Harold, who was killed, some say with an arrow to the eye. On Christmas Day, 1066, William was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey. He was no longer just Duke of Normandy. He was now a king, one who had conquered an entire nation. With William's conquest, the fates of Normandy and England were entwined. He ruled both lands, but they were very different realms. In Normandy, William was a native ruler. In England, he was a foreign conqueror. He brought Norman nobles to replace the English elite, built castles across the country, and commissioned the Domesday Book to catalogue every taxable resource. But he never forgot Normandy. He travelled frequently across the Channel, ensuring his duchy remained loyal and profitable. Yet even William couldn't be in two places at once. William died in 1087, and with him died the united vision of Normandy and England. His lands were divided. Robert Curthose, his eldest son, received Normandy. William Rufus, his second son, took England. Henry, the youngest, received money, but would later take both crowns by force. Robert Curthose was no William. He was brave but reckless, often mocked by his own nobles. He rebelled against his brothers, fought in the First Crusade, and lost Normandy to Henry in 1106. Normandy would remain under English control for over a century, until it was finally taken by the French king in the 13th century. The Dukes of Normandy began as raiders, outsiders, but within a century they became kings, conquerors, and builders of empires. Their influence changed the language, law, and identity of England. Their castles still stand. Their blood still runs through European royalty. From Rollo the Walker to William the Conqueror, their story is one of survival, transformation, and raw ambition. This is Crowns and Blood. Subscribe for more epic tales of rulers, rebels, and the empires they built.